Hello, everybody. So this is a very unusual talk for me because normally I give very deep technical talks, and this will be like the first business talk I ever gave at Unity, which also means it may be my last. I'll find out at the end if I get fired or not. So I think my background is longtime developer, and I always hate going to talks, and you either get like the oh, look what you can do, but then it's not really applicable or useful, or they kind of gloss over a lot of data and don't really leave you with any takeaways. So I'm going to attempt to disclose as much information as I can. Probably will get me fired, so nice knowing you if I don't. But hopefully not. We'll see how it goes. I'm pretty interactive. If there's a question along the way, the Casual Connect people are very generous and gave us 2 slots, and rather than do 2 blindingly fast talks where everybody's like, what did I just see? I thought then I would join them together and do a little bit deeper talk. My experience last year at Casual Connect was I did a very technical talk, and it was kind of mismatched. I think there's a lot of business people that come, a lot of CEOs, CTOs, marketing people, and so sometimes the technical stuff can be a little too technical. So what I'm going to do today is really talk about this, Unity, Asia, and you. I'm going to I tried really hard not to make this an advertisement for Unity as well, because I hate that. People get up, the talk sounds really good, and then in the end you're like, it's all about them. So I need to use a bit of Unity, and you'll see why as we get started. But generally today what I'd like to do is, these are the things I'm hoping you're going to learn. How Asia has grown over the years, and I don't mean just with Unity, but in general, and how Unity has grown over the years with that. And that's important, not because look at us, great, we're so good and so big and wonderful, but there's a correlation between these two. And then I'd like to use that correlation to try to extrapolate and at least help people understand exactly what's happening in the region. And so then I'm going to explain how we're adapting to these changes, and most importantly, the you part is how to do that. So I just went up, I had like a bunch of slides, I cut out 80% of them from the Unity side so I could focus more on the you stuff, and hopefully we'll be successful in that. So let's just dive right in and see how we get going. So step number 1 is really simple. So Unity, for those that don't know, was founded in 2001 by a group of 3 guys that wanted to make a game. And like a lot of developers even today, back then, they decided they needed a game engine, and then they found out that their game engine was better than their game. So they decided to sell that. And it's really funny because I've been developing games, I'm pretty old, but since 1978 was when I made my first game. And back then, you know, it's like, of course you have to write your own game engine. But can you imagine if you wanted to make a movie, and every time you wanted to make the movie, first you had to go invent the camera, and then the recording equipment, and then all the lights, just so that you could go make the movie. In game development, we've been kind of stuck in this loop for a really long time, and engines have come and gone, but Unity seems to be the one that's managed to kind of represent and crystallize this generation and bring it to a new place. But why is that important to us? Well, Unity 1 was released in 2005, Unity 2 was released in 2007, and the important thing for my talk, and the reason the slide is here, is because we started analytics in 2007. So most of the data I'm going to show you is from 2007 onwards, if you're wondering why 2007. There's no magic to it, it's just that's where our data actually starts. So, and what am I going to do with that? Well, it's simple. It's really fun to play with Google Analytics, and especially when you get an account, you go in and you can do all kinds of crazy things. So, but what I've been doing is I've been using Unity as an industry benchmark, right? I mean, if you know how fast Unity is growing and you know your market share, then you can obviously extrapolate that into other aspects of game development. So we know that Unity is used by numerous developers in numerous countries. Unity uses Google Analytics in the editor, which we use to understand how Unity is used and which features have been used most frequently. But as the side benefit of the fact that we know where you were when you started Unity, the editor session, we know how long you used it, and that's actually really, really useful information. And for example, I got interested in this because in my market in Southeast Asia, we don't really have big studios, right? We have just a bunch of indies, or so the thinking is. And then there are some places where, like in Hong Kong, when I was there for the first few months, they were absolutely, everyone was sure in Hong Kong that there is no indie market, positive. So what I started doing is I just started thinking, what would be the characteristics of an indie? And then I had the stupidly silly idea that perhaps if we saw in Hong Kong a lot of booting of Unity editor in the evenings, that might imply that they don't use Unity during the day. Of course, they could be using a competing product or technology, but it could be that they're actually not working in game development by day, but at night they're choosing to spend that time in Unity. And so it was actually through that I convinced, or that together we decided to run a game jam in Hong Kong, and it was wildly successful. And indeed, most of the people that showed up were not actual, game developers by day kind of thing, or they were truly indie developers. So that started me on this journey of fishing through our Google Analytics data, fishing out stuff, and just trying to understand. So we can see how, people boot the editor a lot between 8 and 9 in the morning and then shut it down. If the editor session was 7-8 hours, then you can imagine these are people using during the day. Anyway, so this gives you an idea of the thinking behind this talk, basically. So we can learn a lot about the state of the industry by looking at Unity's use around the world. So the first thing I want to show you is the rise of Asia. So back in 2007, you can see the blue line down at the bottom, the blue chunk is Asia. Back in 2007, you could probably count our customers in like 3 digits, right? And it was a combination of maybe there's a lot of interest in game development for sure, and I've been running a studio since the 90s in Southeast Asia, so surely we're making games. But again, if you compare the industry size and growth that's published in general surveys, and we map that onto Unity, there is a strong correlation about the shift in how game development is moving towards Asia. So in 2012, or at the end of 2012, we basically have overtaken Europe, and by next year we will overtake the US. So what I mean by that is saying that when I compare the Unity installed base and distribution around the world to game development general distribution around the world, they're very closely aligned. In other words, a certain percentage of game developers in every market choose Unity. So this is normalized to 100%. So what it means to say is that game development has been shifting more and more and more into Asia by huge leaps and bounds. And next year, we will definitely pass the US as the #1 market, meaning more people working in game development, making games in Asia than anywhere else in the world, which is fascinating. And some of the data that I want to share that this was based on, which is interesting, is editor usage in Asia. Now this is, I just checked last month. This is 1 month, April 2013. 1.5 million hours, more than 1.5 million hours of work done in Unity, right? Last month, 1 month alone. And that's 100% year-on-year growth. It comes out to 9,375 man-months of work done in Asia. And this is very conservative, right? Because to get any analytics data, that means you had to be connected to the internet and you didn't opt out of our analytics stuff. So every number in here is guaranteed to be correct, but then there's also a certain percentage beyond that. And then I wanted to cover all of Asia because it's Casual Connect Asia, but more specifically to me because I take care of Southeast Asia and Hong Kong. In Southeast Asia and Hong Kong alone, there was 160,000 hours in Unity last month. That's just 1 month of work. And that's also 100% year-on-year growth. And so some interesting things, right? If we look, so these are sorted from last month's data. I looked at April then, apples to apples. I looked at April last year and April in 2011 just to get some points of reference. So Singapore is the blue, Hong Kong is the green, and then you can see Thailand, Finland, whatever. So this is just for the last month. And these do shift a bit. Some months Malaysia will be #1 and somebody else will be #2, whatever. And that's the interesting bit. If you actually just look at the thickness of the bands, they're all about the same, right? So it means that people are using Unity in these countries. I guess I should be clear that these are the countries I just put into the chart. And that's pretty incredible. But what's interesting to me about this is that Singapore and Hong Kong always rank in the top 5. I mean, obviously there's only about 8 up there, but 2, 4, 6, 7, sorry, is that Singapore and Hong Kong have some of the smallest populations. So Unity, and this is what was, people asked me about Hong Kong all the time, and they said there's nobody developing games there, blah, 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 but it turns out Hong Kong is very similar. If you're Singaporean and you want to know what it's like in Hong Kong, it's like it is here. And if you're from Hong Kong and want to know what it's like in Singapore, it's like there. They're very active with Unity, very active in game development. Whereas Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Vietnam are very active in game development, but they're truly indie. I find that in Singapore, at least, you might call yourselves indie, but there's still teams of 2 or 3, sometimes bigger. Malaysia, Thailand and Indonesia have loads of developers, one person working out of their house, making stuff, making money, profitable. Like, we interact with them a lot. Over the last 12 months, I've met about 6,000 developers in Southeast Asia alone. And it's just really incredible. So it just means this is really vibrant. This is pretty resilient, This isn't going to be wiped out by a bad economy. This isn't going to be whatever. These are people that are making games for global markets, for local markets, for inter-Asia markets. It's really, really incredible, actually, what they're doing. So this was the basis of just looking at what people do, and like I said, people just use Unity a crazy number of hours each day. And so how are we going to help you succeed? So what's Unity's vision? Obviously, we have the democratizing game development, but we've set up regional offices and staff around the world. And basically, just to make it clear how we help people, we do evangelism activities, and people say, what's an evangelist? Right? So basically, what we do is we try to help people learn Unity effectively. In my case, my own studio switched to Unity. We had our own tech before that. It was similar to Unity in a lot of ways. And so, we had some insight as to how somebody moving from proprietary tech might get up onto Unity. And so it was a natural fit for me to come out, help them go around. So I do a lot of sit-down coding sessions, a lot of talks, where I just exchange information on Unity, stuff like that. And we do that around the world. I think there's about 6, I don't even know, but I guess there's like 5 or 6 evangelists covering the whole world. And we do that. Then we also have field engineers. Field engineers usually are focused on studios. It's for organizations that are a bit bigger, and then it would be like your direct point of contact. I also do the field engineer work in Southeast Asia. But why I want to put this up here and explain it is how we can really help you. A lot of times we end up getting involved at the end of a project, when actually if you get us involved in the early part of the project, we can help you a lot. And I guess actually a lot of vendors would say that. I could probably, ask any middleware or tool companies out here, and they would say their biggest problem is people come to them too late, right? So field engineer, the idea is that, hey, I come and I could be your CTO for the day. We sit down, what's your game design, help you architect it, help you get pointed in the right direction, so that then your development goes a lot smoother, as opposed to, hey, we want to ship this game next week. It's got frame rate problems, memory problems, this problem, that problem. It's very difficult to fix at that point. And then technical support is basically to fix issues, right? So if you mail support at unity3d.com, then it goes and does that. And then we can also provide on some, your mileage may vary and no warranty implied, game development expertise to help you make better games, right? So for example, I didn't catch all the talk, but Hilmi was talking about agile development, different techniques and whatever. And it's the same idea. We have things, depending on studio, I might advise them, use verbs and nouns, sort your verbs based on the top 80% of what your player's going to do. Players buy verbs, they don't buy nouns, right? So we can help startups and new people also have an idea of like where they should spend the time, how they should be focused on their development stuff. So, and to do that, then of course we have staff around the world. We're actually in 21 countries now and counting. It's just crazy. Unity's approach, though, is really interesting. It's a distributed development strategy. And I'm mentioning this because I think it's kind of relevant to some stuff I'm about to talk about. So when Unity hires somebody, they don't think we want to hire you and relocate you somewhere. They want to hire people and leave them where they are, where they're the most productive. And it started early on, probably because we were too broke to do it, right? We probably didn't have any money to relocate somebody, but we really wanted that guy to work for us, right? And a good example is, like the Imagine Technologies. It's the chip in phones, in Apple's devices. We hired basically the entire driver team last year, and they happen to be located in a certain city, so we just make an office around them, right? So we always look for the people that can really provide the best, most amazing things that what we need, and we just kind of build around them. So as a result, we just happen to be in 21 countries. It's not somebody sat down and said, we should be in this country, we should be in that country. No, it's just like, hey, we want to hire this guy. What does he do? He's a developer. Great. Then let's just build a little thing around them and let them stay there. Mecanum is one of the main features of Unity. It's one of our headline features now, done by 3 guys out of basically Canada. And we say Canada because they don't even have an office. Like the 3 of them work together out and meet at Starbucks or whatever, because that's what they wanted to do. Right? So that's kind of the power. But we're in these 21 places now and still growing. And on the other end of development, we needed somebody here in Asia because of the shifting in Asia. So I got hired last year to help and support the developers. But I'm also pleased to tell you that we officially have a Singapore office. It's kind of running. I can see, can you guys hold up your hands? There's Beeling right here. I can see, and David, come on higher up than that. And is Paul here? Paul, I sent him an SMS. The reason why is because we're hiring. And I want to point out Paul. Darn it, he said he was going to be here. So believe it or not, we're actually going to start a small dev team here as well. And that dev team is going to be focused on our serious game products. They're doing a lot of really interesting things, just bootstrapping the team now. And for the whole world, like one of our biggest serious game customers is NASA. We have Jet Propulsion Laboratory. We have all kinds of crazy customers. And all of that work is going to be done now here in Singapore with Paul as our first hire. And we're looking, by the way, for 3 to 5 good developers to help bootstrap that team. But I think we're aiming for 12 by year end, or at least Henrik told me I could say 12, so that won't get me fired. So don't worry, I'm not fired yet. And we're doing financial legal operations supporting all of Asia, plus, like I said, the development team. So this is a good example of something. And I have some more good news, because I get not pestered, that's the wrong word. I get asked about this a lot. I am very pleased to announce that Unity is finally offering certification. If this was a lot of educational institutions in the audience, there'd be cheers right now and tears of joy streaming down their face. It's our single most requested thing, is that we need some sort of certification, right? We have schools everywhere in Asia, and everybody wants to learn Unity, and people are just stuck bootstrapping every single thing themselves, and it's very tough for them to do. So I'm very pleased to announce that we have user, professional, and master certification is basically launched. And we're taking a very different approach on this, because Unity believes that we want to democratize game development. And we also have to recognize, for all the young people here, you grew up spoiled, okay? You assume that you have access to a customer. I don't assume that. I grew up in a world where most of the years have been spent working through publishers and obstacles, where I'm over here, my customer is so far away I cannot even see them, and I have all these people peeing on my project, right, between me and my customer. So now we have a very special time, right, where we can actually build products, we can get it out, we can make a difference. And this is really important in Asia, right? Because in the 80s and 90s, if you're old enough, you would know there was a huge push to outsource to Asia, right? So all the creative work would be done, say, in America or Japan or Europe, and then they just want us to do the development, right? But what we want to do is establish ourselves as intellectual property developers, right? Owning actual real IP. So this is a great time to do that. So one of our goals in Unity certification is not to do an exam that says, can you find the button that clicks on this feature and that feature, right? So our exam is designed to really cover fundamentals of game development. How would you be useful? The analogy I always love to use for this is, if I went through a course, right, and I passed my certification, and then I get hired and I go to work on Monday morning, and the boss says, okay, we're going to be making an action adventure with this cool character, whatever, and then the new guy is like, does it need light mapping? It's like the nouns aren't useful. I know we buy things sometimes based on the nouns, but you actually want the verbs. What's it going to help me do, right? And all of you that want to make great games, great content, you need to focus on the doing. And we want to create a certification such that when you hire somebody who's certified and they come in, that it's like, wow, they were really useful, and I want more just like this. And so we're hoping, anyway, that through our certification, we can sort of steer and guide people towards being productive, effective developers. So our first exam is going to be in China next month. We're scrambling to get all that together, but that's a good thing. And Korea's going to launch a couple months after that, and then we'll slowly roll it out from there. So very happy to announce that we have certification. And then more important, for those of you that have been at this conference, I'm glad my talk wasn't yesterday, because I wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. I would like to, sorry, one more thing. And then we also have a curriculum in development. I don't really have many details on that, but we will also be supporting schools, institutions, and other people to understand kind of the direction that we think that they should go in order to achieve certification. So again, I'm glad my talk is today and not yesterday, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to tell you that announcing today, if you've missed the news, Unity is now free on iOS and Android, which is huge in Asia. It's absolutely huge in Asia. And what's more, so that I can get that in, is that, believe it or not, Unity's vision of democratizing game development is getting pretty close. So we have free iOS Basic, free Android, we have free BlackBerry when released. So it's in beta now. We invite you to the open beta. You can get in today and use it, and you can publish, but you're going to have to wait until the official release for the free serial number to do that, which I believe we're targeting for July or August. We also have some free BlackBerry Pro licenses, and that will be done in our partnership with BlackBerry. So I know there's a little asterisk there. I'm going to cover that in a minute. We have free Microsoft Windows 8 Basic, which has also been announced yesterday, and that's, again, when released, and that should be also forthcoming. So the Microsoft Windows Phone 8 has been in development and actually alpha beta testing since last year. There's been a number of games released on that as well. So not too in the distant future. Wii U development is also free. This is a full pro license from Nintendo. And then I had the words free in front of Sony, but I was sure that was going to get me fired. So I thought I will at least take that word out with a little asterisk and explain that. But the PS Vita, PS3, and PS4, we also have a great partnership with Sony on that, and we're going to be rolling that up. Okay, so what does the asterisk mean? So the thing is that this has to be based on some economics, right? So step back from the asterisk for a moment. So everybody wants their platform to be the #1 platform, right? And we all imagine that it's going to be great, but it's hard to know what that's going to be. And obviously for economics, you can't have that there were 10 million developers, but you only sold 100 licenses, and the platform holder doesn't want to pay for 1 million licenses and then only have 100, right? So these asterisks basically mean that we have slightly more complicated agreements. It means that there are free Unity licenses to be had, but there is a finite number, and then after a certain batch, then there's another batch and another batch. So what the asterisks really mean is if you're interested in especially the BlackBerry Pro or any of the Sony platforms, get involved early, right? If you found you got the Sony contact from the last talk, email them, get involved, speak up. Same thing with Microsoft. There are people from Microsoft here. There's people from BlackBerry. The trick is to claim your free pro license is to do something, right? Because they don't want to give you a license and then have somebody else who actually needs the license can't do it because they don't have it. But basically, Unity has this this vision. And then I thought it'd be nice because a lot of people don't really get to interact with Unity much. David was kind enough to send me the slide, so I want to show you his little talk on that. It's 2 minutes and 33 seconds.
It seems like yesterday that we were sitting in this basement, the founders of Unity, and we started with this very simple idea that we wanted to democratize game development. And we decided that this vision would lead the company, and we would make decisions based on this big vision. And we built a fantastic product, put all the advanced game technology that you need to make great games into it, made it polished, made it elegant, documented it well, and gave it extremely accessible price points. And the idea was that if we did this well, which I think we can say we've done, this would have a huge impact on the industry. This would change some things, move some things around, and make some people game developers who wouldn't otherwise be game developers, and make many other people better game developers. A vision like that, the value of it can sort of almost be measured by not just where it's trying to take you, but how it helps you make the decisions along the way. So, for instance, a few years ago, we were able to take our indie price point, which is $200 back then, and make it $0. Still a commercial license. You can actually make money with that for making games for PC, Mac, and the browser. Doing that was a fantastic decision. So, it helped us bring up a community from 13,000 people to just a hair's breadth from 2 million people today, which is quite an explosion. And this community, of course, is what is making Unity so vibrant today. What's also been happening in the meantime is that mobile game development has exploded into probably the most compelling part of the industry, and especially for small studios and independent developers. So we've had these products for iOS and Android that together cost $800, and we've sold a lot of them, and a lot of people have built amazing games with them. That allowing ourselves to be guided by this original vision, we have decided, as of today, right now, to make them completely free. You can download them off our website, you can use them, and you can build great games, you can sell them, you can make them money, and I'm just looking forward to seeing what you're going to build with it. Enjoy.
Cool. Which, instead of getting me fired, will probably get me out of a job, because now we don't get any money, so free is kind of hard. That's another story. Okay, so the good news keeps getting better. I have another thing that I'd like to announce today, and it comes with one caveat. The guy that was supposed to come and present that had to fly off to help be part of this announcement, so I'm going to be presenting that. But I'd also like to say that Unity is now, as the next step, decided that we're going to be offering publishing assistance. And this publishing assistance is going to take many forms, but initially we're going to actually launch it in Asia. It's going to be our first one. Again, this is just showing the reflection of how important Asia is and the growth that we're experiencing out here. So China and Korea have stepped up as the first two. Japan is also stepping up and is going to be doing something, but it's not far enough along for me to really put too much on the slides now. So, the China and Korean markets especially can be very hard to penetrate. I'm going to go in depth actually on China to give you an example. I don't have time to do all of them, and I don't know that it applies to everybody, so I'm going to pick one of our territories that we're out and show you that. So in Unity China, we're going to offer end-to-end assistance to our developers. And it's a bit of a slippery slope. You don't want to be the one that's like also being a barrier. So we've done a lot of things, and we've structured things in a lot of ways to make sure that we're just always helping developers move forward and whatever, and give you choice, right? We don't want to make any limits on you whatsoever. So China is offering complete end-to-end assistance, and I'll be going through that in detail. And Korea and Japan is helping developers get into the market already. And this is really as easy as, hey, I want to get into Korea. How do I do that? Send an email. They will just help you. I mean, we would just really, really help you, introduce you to the right people, get you going. If you need more than that help and you want to fly out there, they will take you to meetings, set meetings up for you. We really, really want to see everybody successful. And it works multiple ways. I actually ought to put a slide up here as well, because I personally am evaluating also setting up publishing for Indonesia in Unity, but I'm not ready to talk about that yet, so I've removed that from the slide. So the idea is just, again, to make sure that we're all helping each other do more in the coming years. So I'd like to kind of shift gears a little bit then and talk to you about taking your mobile game to China. As I said, Alan Fu, our country manager for China, he's a Singaporean. He's living in China, running our China operations. He was actually supposed to be here today to do it, but he had to go to the Unite in Malmo, which is also yesterday and today, and so he said it. And so we went through this on Skype last night, and I feel really confident that I can present this. It's good. All right, so first off, China is a freakishly large place, yes? And I think that, everybody says, yeah, China's big, I know that. It's got billion people, yeah, I know that. But I think the key point is when you look at China, even in China themselves, they classify China into kind of different tiers, right? And you have to realize that some places that you may have been, if you've been to China, like you go to Shanghai or go to Beijing, these are extremely developed, extremely modern cities, right? But they have different tiers, and they also have cities that are much less developed and that would resemble in other lesser developed countries. And then they have places in China that are so undeveloped that you wouldn't be mistaken to associate it perhaps with third world countries or places that you don't want to get lost in, right? So when we say China is big, it also means that there's a huge range of economies. And because it's so big, and because it's growing so fast, and because it has all different kinds of economic price points, and because the Chinese are exceptionally industrious and businesslike, you can imagine that the landscape is just fraught with possibility. So it's great that there's a lot of possibility, but mostly what I want to talk to you about today is just give you an insight into the Chinese market and Unity itself. And this is when I talk about publishing assistance in any of the countries we assist you, this is what we do. Like, we want to help you understand who is there and what they're doing, what kinds of audiences there are, so that you can help build great products. So we provide a lot of deep information. So first thing that is just coming at it from, we're going to go from the macro view down to the micro view. So at the macro view, yeah, China's a really freakishly large place. Cool, got it. So next step then is in the mobile, just slicing that through the mobile market. So the blue bars here are just trying to show you in millions, in hundreds of millions of mobile phone sales, how much you're selling per year. This isn't the installed base. This is just the number of units that they sell. So for example, this year alone, they're expecting close to 300 million smartphone sales, just this year alone, right? But that's added to phones that were sold last year and perhaps the year before. I know phones may not have a long lifespan, but you can pretty safe to add that number plus like half all the previous numbers. And then there's a number of people fighting it out, and there's no one dominant player in terms of hardware yet, and there's more cropping up every day. I mean, if you actually plotted a graph of all the hardware makers, you would be shocked to find out companies spring up every day with all kinds of crazy devices and do that. So within that mobile market, that means an audience of people carrying a mobile phone, then the networked number of those has grown to 420 million, right? That means that there's 420 million people in China at the end of last year that had some form of network access on a mobile phone, okay? So, and of these, about 268 million of these are active mobile gamers. So using, one of the great things about being Unity, and one of the great things about I always like to know how things work. Like, how do you get a lot of this really cool information or opportunities? Well, it's really simple. Imagine you're a phone manufacturer, right? Imagine you're Samsung. Samsung here today? Anybody? Okay, good, I can use Samsung. So it's like, so imagine you're Samsung, right? So you want to make this really cool new phone, okay, but it needs a graphics chip. So the usual players, right? You have NVIDIA there, you have ATI there, you have all the people that want to sell you phone chips, right? So obviously when they launch the phone, they want it to be really great, and they don't want it to get panned on TechCrunch on the first day. So, and the chip companies want the business. So these are both motivated parties that basically, since like 70% of all the top games in app stores are built with Unity, then you pretty much want to be sure that, you know, The Room, which was Game of the Year last year, can run on your new phone, right? So this is why a lot of these hardware companies that are springing up every day, especially in China, they come to us and they want to be sure that all the Unity stuff runs on their platform. So this is another way that we always leverage the dominance of Unity, then we wield it as if we were representing you. We go in and we make sure that these games really run. We take games off the App Store, we reach out to developers, we run them on prototype hardware, we make sure that this thing's going to, when the machine is launched, it runs. So we have relationships with all these people, and we get a lot of good information about what they're actually doing. So we have 286 million active mobile gamers that we know. Android is far and away the largest market share, which, you know, it seems like it's double that of iOS. But if you look at the growth rates by OS, Android has really taken hold and is kind of racing off at the moment. So the point here anyway is that there are hundreds of millions of gamers, mostly on iOS and Android. And within that, then, you know, the market is growing really quickly. There are 18 titles now in China that have crossed US 3 million per month in revenues. And the other interesting thing is, you know, like there's all these companies springing up that are trying to sell you their services, right? Oh, you need our connectivity services, and we, you know, it's our network, these network ideas and whatever. And yes, those do have a place, but you know, even in a place like China, the number one way that people get games is friends' recommendations, right? And I always hate the fact that we're always distracted by venture capital funded companies that come and give talks and try to, you know, snap their fingers and whatever. And I'm not saying they don't add value, but the mistake you can make as an independent developer is to assume that what you make has no value, right? If you have no value, then please don't even ship it. We got enough crap in the world, right? But assuming that you actually make something with value, and assuming that you want your IP to go out there, you have to change your thinking. You have to realize it's my IP, it's my control. Who's my audience? What my audience, what platform are they on? How am I going to give them an experience where I have the game, they have the money, we can make a basic transaction together and both parties be satisfied, right? So doing that leads to friends' recommendations. Well, sure, you would say, how did the friends find out your game originally? Sure, there's some marketing problems here, but at the end of the day, it's not because it was forced app installed or, you know, promoted like crazy banner ads or whatever, but the reality is that 60% of the people base it on the friend's recommendation. And that's just common sense, right? How many people have seen a brand new restaurant? Oh, you love, I don't know, dim sum, and you see a brand new dim sum place down the street. How many people, the first time you see it, would pull straight in your car, pull straight in and go eat there? Nobody does, right? They go home and tell their wife, hey, did you see the new dim sum place? Yes, I did. Is it any good? I don't know. Do you want, you know, right? We always ask people. We always want to know, like, what do you know about it? Is it good? We try to make sure that this is a good thing. Even if we want it straight away, the friend recommendation is really important. So, but the problem in China, of course, is how crazy confusing it is. The original slide had arrows connecting all these boxes, and it's not as simple as it looks. There's arrows going every which way. I deleted them all because you couldn't even see. And that was actually the point of the slide. After I deleted them, Alan told me, no, that was the point, was to show you how confusing the market is. But basically, most of the users have downloaded games from these browsers that you probably never heard of. And there are 400 portals where people actively buy games, right? This isn't just one place. I think Google Play has like almost, what is it? It's like 3%. Yeah, it's on the slide actually. Only 3% are using Google Play, but all these others are using from Tencent, from UC. And it's a very confused thing. So you have almost no credit cards. You have 400 plus portals. and you have the telecom carriers, and you have all these payment gateways. And together this makes just fragmented devices. You have fragmented app stores, fragmented portals, which by the way I hear are called vortals. This is like a new term. I learned something new yesterday. A vertical portal, specialized. So they're creating all, and why? Because China, imagine, it's a huge place, billions of people, they're all coming into money, the economy is growing like crazy. They buy the phone and they're consuming content, and the place is so big that no one player can cover it all, right? Because it's a new business. So you've got everybody inventing all these new business models, new portals, new payment gateways. It's just all kinds of crazy stuff. So in there, payment options, credit card is very low. It's only 6%, almost 7%. SMS proxy. So carriers become a really important way to buy stuff, where you SMS a code in, and then that goes onto your mobile bill or deducted from your prepaid card, and then you get the code that you need to use in the game itself. So that also becomes another headache that you have to get around. Now what's interesting is, then I want to cover another issue in China, which, make sure I get this right, that is called the Shanzai, I think is the copycats, right? So this is a copy of Clash of Clans. So Alan, our country manager, is very well connected in China, and he did a lot of research, right, and talked to a lot of people. He personally knows 42 teams that are completely copying, like pixel for pixel, right, this game, Clash of Clans. He knows personally 42. Don't know how many actual teams are doing it, but he actually sat down and met 42, and they showed off their demos of the game, right? So copying your game is not, it might happen, it will happen. And interestingly enough, because he wanted to be, in order to help developers and understand the market, he actually spent a lot of time gaining their trust and trying to find, hey, look, I'm not going to report you or whatever, I just want to understand. And the majority of them actually copy games to learn. That was the #1 reason for copying, and they were very serious about it. And we've hired some staff in China, and they will agree, yeah, this is what we do, because they don't have the expertise, right? And English is not necessarily their first language. And there's just, books, where you got a bookstore, again, China's so big, how many copies would you make? How many bookstores would they go to? Who would buy it? Is the information timely? You have the Great Firewall of China blocking information from the outside as well. So all these factors together means you kind of have to do it yourself. So what they do is they take a game and, wow, that game's #1. Oh, we should copy it, right? And so they bring it in. It's not just because they want to rip it off, but they're actually sitting down and trying to say, copy it. How do we do this? How do we make this UI? How do we whatever? Oh, I see. And then they're learning basically how to do that. So these 4 elements then become really important. So these were the success factors that Unity China is basically now advising developers, right? You need creativity, speed to market. Localization doesn't necessarily mean Chinese. It means localizing it to the way the consumers think, the way the consumers expect to consume the content, to get it, to how they're going to be monetized, all that stuff. And then partnering, using the leverage of the partners to gain access to other partners, right? Kind of a meta network, if you will. Not at the consumer level, but at the developer level. You're on this network, and this network is kind of friendly with that network because I'm in these territories, you're in those territories. So hey, I'll take your games, you take my games, right? So it's a rapidly growing and evolving situation in China. And so these alliances are formed, and if you have to understand kind of the alliances to see who you should be talking to get coverage of your game. And if you have overlap between the different territories, then somebody may decide they don't want to really promote your game, or vice versa, right? So having that market knowledge is really important. Now, one of the success stories that was pointed out, and this was actually at Unite China, was the Legend of the King. Here's some data on how it's performing now. This game is currently making is one of the ones making over $3 million per month. It's 34% is on iOS, 66% on Android. And so how does Unity do that? So some people know about the Union Initiative, and honestly, until I started working for Unity, I actually didn't understand what union is, right? So I do understand now, and I'd like to just take a moment to explain it. So the Unity's union initiative was really simple. It wasn't necessarily a way to help you bring your games to other platforms yourself. The idea was to try to help you get onto platforms that you had no access to, or couldn't do it easily. So example would be if you wanted your game, so a TV maker may want to put some games on their new next-gen smart TV, or an airline may want to put a game on the airline or something like that, right? So the idea of the union was that we would basically take your game, the Unity source, internally, we would port that game to that platform. So we would actually take the Unity source, the Unity engine source code, and we would port parts of the Unity engine that we needed to that platform, port your game, and basically make a game that will run on those platforms. So this is what Union was done, and the partner that helped us do that was Dark Wind in Boston, which we've since acquired, and they're part of the Unity team now. So Union China is an extension of that. So what Alan has done is set up and partnered with local developers where they can, so we have end-to-end service offering, means that, hey, I don't want to do anything, I just want to make money. Right? Example of this would be like a Dead Trigger or games like that, right? Games where the studios are very focused on other markets, but they would like to be in China, so we get the request. So what Unity China does, because they're an entity with a good reputation, they will then bring your code in, they will get the game ported onto that local platform or hardware, they will manage all the things, collect all the money, do everything, and then basically represent you in China. And that can be end-to-end. So development support means modifying the game to fix it, restructuring it, breaking it apart. If it was using too much memory for over-the-air download, maybe they will restructure whatever. So it's completely adapting is probably a better word on the development support. Porting testing then means bringing it to all the platforms that you want to be on, including ones that aren't listed here. Well, actually they are, like the Chengchong. There's custom developed TVs and other things like that you can also get deployed on. And then commercialization, that is, because Unity has all these agreements now with all these portals, and they are now a player in that market, then they know how to basically roll your game out and get it onto the platform. So then to summarize then on the China, and Korea would be something similar, and Japan might be something similar, right? So this is just China's kind of leading this charge. The summary of this is just China's expected to grow. It's growing about 50% year on year. The partnering is just, meaning that Android is the #1 currently, and these Vortals over there, the point #2 and the partnering, have become a significant mechanism because there's so much, consumers just can't choose. So the next stage in this evolving crazy ecosystem is vertical portals, where people are starting to form specific game channels and game areas around the different portals to try to carve out a market. And so Unity's also helping to navigate those and then hook up, say, hey, they want like puzzles and whatever, then they know which puzzle games that they can draw on to try and bring those into that and be a leader and establish that brand. Localization doesn't necessarily mean language, but example is like a lot of people want the very first part of the game to be like a very small download. They may download many, many games. So it's not just making it free, but maybe like ridiculously light free, like you can download it in 5 seconds and try out like 30 seconds of content, or it's just how you chop up the content, how you deliver it, how you refactor it. If there's any weird content issues inside that are culturally wrong, it's like fixing all that stuff. Testing, there are just crazy, crazy numbers of devices in China. I mean, by companies you've never heard of. So just keeping track of which device is trending and peaking, doing platform install deals on those, right? The hardware manufacturer is coming out, and then we can maybe pre-install a Unity game on that new device. So for the first 30 days, it will only appear on that device, this kind of thing. Speed to market, of course. Recommendation is, launch your game in China. Even if you don't want to use us or whatever, the basic rule of thumb is just throw it at China, just if nothing else to prevent. If everybody's going to copy your game, regardless of how good or bad it is, you might as well try to get some exposure for your brand, so that even if the day that you decide you want to enter China seriously, at least you've realized what's come before, right? Otherwise, what will happen is somebody may copy your game, it may be out there, and then when you come into the market, you seem like the copier, right? Because they were there first. They were there first, and they've released sequels and upgraded it and stuff like that. And so then, like last is it, you have the union in China is that could be leveraged for you. So some contact information for those that might be interested. Obviously, there's me taking care of Southeast Asia and Hong Kong. That's Brett B at unity3.com. For China's Alan Fu. And for Korea is William Yang. And so you can feel free. I can just leave this slide up here. The next slide just says, thank you for your kind attention and all that stuff. So I don't know that I have a lot of time for questions.
Actually, we're running out of time, but I'm going to give you like another 5 minutes so we can have like 1 or 2 questions, because I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions, guys. So, but I only can get like 1 or 2. So anybody has a question?
No questions, cool. Sure. You can ask me anything, because, you know, I could get fired. It's all right.
Ask him now.
Okay, good. Anyway, thanks all for sitting through a double session like that. I hope it was useful to you. As I said, we've got the Unity team up here. Guys, raise your hands. Got some Singapore guys. And then Paul, are you here yet? There he is. So any developers in the room? The guy over there, Paul, is leading our development team in Singapore. So you're interested, go talk to him. If you already work for another company, I know, sorry, if somebody quits your company and comes to work for us, I apologize. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. Have a nice day.